Shalom. Giving all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Wanted to do this quick video, or not really a quick one. I'll see where the spirit takes me. But wanted to do this video on this scripture. All things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. um, I went through a situation recently that was a reoccurring situation in my life. And without getting into the personal details, it basically had to do with, substances. And it's kind of hard for me to make this video, but I'm going to try to persevere. It's like it could be a testimony as well. Basically, man, don't play around with this scripture. That's what the Spirit is letting me know. Don't play around with the scripture, and also use your talents, because oftentimes, if we have idle time in our life, that can lead us down different pathways and routes where we may be tempted to take certain things, or we may be tempted to rebound off of something that we already overcame before in the past. When you have idle time, the scriptures speak about how Satan creeps in when you have idle time. So this scripture has multiple layers to it. It has multiple ways that it could take place in your life. But I'm just going to go into how it applied to me, and Lord willing is edifying to the flock. So this is First Corinthians, and the scriptures say it in two different places. I'm gonna get both of them. First Corinthians 10:23. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. And yeah, it's pretty much to the point. Expedient, the etymology of that scripture. Expedient, it says advantageous, fit for, or proper to a purpose. So basically saying, even though all things are lawful, not everything is advantageous for you. Even though all things are okay for you to do according to the law, not everything works the best with every individual. Basically, a quick example would be alcohol. Some people can drink just fine. Um, I personally don't really have an issue with alcohol. Some people can drink just fine. However, some people, I was talking with one of my older brothers yesterday, and he was saying how when he knows certain people that when they drink, they turn into a dickhead, or they turn into a a-hole. And when certain people drink, they're just fine. That's basically what the scripture is going into. Alcohol is a perfect example. All things are lawful, meaning alcohol is lawful to do. It's lawful to drink. It's lawful to drink wine, but all things are not good for you. Meaning, even though it's lawful, it may not be a proper fit for you. Just like I was saying, um, my brother and I know people that can drink and they're just fine, but then some people can drink and it changes them. So this is a very important scripture that I'm learning the more I'm in this truth. I believe this is my 9th year or my 10th, one of them. And this scripture, it plays a heavy part in my life right now at the time being, because everything is not for every person. And sometimes it takes a while for the Lord to open up your eyes to see that it's not for you. Sometimes it takes um, trials and tribulation that we got to go through for you to understand that everything is not for you. And that's something that I've gone through lately. I got a situation in my life that's playing out. Basically, you could say again. And I'm just learning that it really takes a lot of self-examination, and most importantly, self-examination without honesty is to no avail. It's pointless. If you are not examining yourself honestly to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, then there's really no point. There's really no point in doing any self-examination. But I'm learning that, this scripture is heavy. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient or advantageous. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. And with this scripture, you got to be real with yourself. You got to be real with yourself. You got to be real and you got to be honest. All right. Real quick precept, Proverbs 25 and 28. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. So, in order to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, you got to have rule over your spirit. And having rule over your spirit stems from honesty. Because I myself know that I suffer with paying attention sometimes. I suffer with being focused, right? Sometimes I suffer with being diligent in certain areas in life. And in order to rule your spirit, you got to be honest with what you lack, right? I'm honest with myself when I say that I have trouble focusing. So when I notice that I'm not focusing, I try to lock back in, right? When all things are not expedient, the way you can connect this scripture is that you have to have rule over your spirit to know what is expedient or advantageous for you and what is not. And like I said, sometimes it takes trial and error, not purposeful, but it just turns out that way. And I've learned that you cannot, if the Lord hasn't opened up your eyes to something, then you just don't know. You just don't know. And when you don't know, it's best to go slow. Take your time with new things in life. That's how you can gain more rule over your spirit, because the slower you go, the deeper you understand something and the more time you have to examine yourself. If you go too fast, then you don't really have the time to examine what's going on and examine the changes within you. For instance, if it's your first time drinking, you would want to take just one cup. You don't want to start off with two or three or four, because you're not gonna. By the time you're on the second cup or the third cup, you didn't move too quick, and now you're all drunk, and now you're all acting out of character. So I've learned that with ruling your spirit, it's best to go slow. It's best to take your time. It's best to go slow. 1 Corinthians 6 and 12, it says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Yeah, and it's easy to get brought under the power of any in this world, because this place is hell. This place is hell. We constantly want a way out. The flesh is like a never ending, how should I say it? This carnal mind and this flesh is like a never ending buffet of wickedness. Meaning this flesh just never wants to stop eating unclean and polluted stuff and stuff that's not good for you. It just never wants to, man. That's why I said, but I will not be brought under the power of any. This flesh constantly wants you to be brought under the power. It wants you to be brought under the power of of carnal worldly things, man. And that goes for anything that's lawful, whether it's any type of herb, any type of alcohol, any type of anything that you can take. Everything is a temptation for you in this place. Everything can be an addiction. You could you could be addicted to eating too many vegetables. Everything has a balance to it, and everything has a way in and a way out, where everything can tempt you negatively, or it can tempt you positively. And if you go too fast and you become unbalanced, then that's where the negative temptation comes. And like I said, only you know whether something that is lawful is good for you. Only you truly know if it is good for you or if it's not good for you. You got to be honest, man. You got to be real with yourself, because this is the only life we got right now. We know that we're going to get a new body and a new mind later, But right now, this is it, man. This is it. You do something stupid, you get in trouble with the law, you could be away for a long time, man. And I tell you from personal experience, when you're away during that time, it's not fun. It's not fun. Every day is a fight. Every day is a struggle. Every day is a day that makes you beg to the Lord that you would have should have never made that decision. And this is the only life we got until the kingdom of heaven. So you got to take this life delicately. I really see what Elder Apostle Gabar meant when he said we got to walk on eggshells, because that's true. We got to walk on eggshells in this life, man. You can't play around with this life. You can't play around with substances and things that are lawful, and alcohol. You can't play around. You play around and that's gonna be your ass, man. And I really understand that now. Proverbs 11:1, it says, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So we got to do everything within balance. Everything within balance, everything within moderation. Like I said, all things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. So something that may be lawful, but it's not really advantageous to you, it could become unadvantageous if you are unbalanced with it, right? You can like going bowling, but you can start going bowling too much to the point where you get absorbed in that having fun spirit. You know, everyone nowadays just wants to have fun. No one's serious. That lollygagging, lofty, jolly spirit. You could you could have a pastime that is lawful, like bowling or watching TV or anime. You can have a pastime that is lawful, but if you do it too much, it could take you out of the proper spirit of fear and trembling in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? You could have a pastime that is lawful, but if you do the pastime too much, it's going to take you out of the spirit of the Lord, which is a spirit of humility, crying and begging to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and ultimately an austere, serious spirit, right? So you got to be careful with what you give your time unto. You got to be careful with what you're doing, because it only takes one time, and Esau doesn't like us. So you mess up one time and Esau's going to try to throw you under, man. You get a new car and you go too fast on the highway and you crash into someone. Now you're going to have to deal with that your whole life. So this truth is nothing to play around with. These scriptures, 1 Corinthians 6 and 12, 1 Corinthians 10 and 23, these scriptures are nothing to play around with, man. Let me read it one more time. It says, 1 Corinthians 10 and 23, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Not everything is edifying for every single person, man. And you got to take that serious. You got to take that deadly serious, because there are certain portals that can open up on the left-hand side where evil angels will come and attack you, and you could invite that portal on yourself. And the worst thing that you can have is the plague of the mind. That's the worst thing you can have. And when those evil angels come, they don't show any mercy, man, because ultimately that means that Yahweh allowed them to come because of a mistake that you made. And when those evil angels come, they don't play around. They just gonna go straight for the kill every time, because of a mistake you made, because of a decision that you shouldn't have made. And then you're gonna have to beg Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for mercy. And you don't want it to come to that. You want to learn off of people's like mine experience and other people's experience, to not play around with substances and alcohol and different herbs that we can use. You know, you got ashwagandha, ginkgo biloba, a whole bunch of different stuff that helps. But you got to really watch yourself when you take this stuff, man. Watch how it affects your mind. Watch how it makes you think. Watch how it changes the decisions that you make. Watch how it affects your character, how you know yourself to be. Because we're living in the end days. So we have our most important test coming up before all hell breaks loose, Jacob's trouble. And the Lord is going to test you with what you're weak with. So if you don't do careful examination and if you don't watch yourself, then you may fail a test, and then you're going to have to be built back up by how Bashem Yahushai if you are a part of the elect. But you don't want to have to come to that, man. So Lord willing, this video was edifying. I'm going to end it there. I felt like, the message of fear was made. Hey, fear Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Be careful in everything that you do, right? Don't be anxious, but be careful, be diligent. We got to walk and live like we're old. We got to slow down, be diligent, have rule over your spirit, and have a proper balance with everything you do, because you do not want to play around with the Lord, man. So Lord willing, this was edifying.